What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Get a Grip Sports Football. Today we are going to be doing my updated 2021 NFL mock draft after the big San Francisco 49ers trade. So I'm using thedraftnetwork.com. I'm using their mock draft machine. It's an amazing website. Today we are going to be doing a 3-round mock draft. No trades because I'm not going to pay $10 for premium. So first pick, this is a very, very obvious one. It's going to be Trevor Lawrence going to the Jags. He's a phenomenal quarterback. He's a great pocket passer. The Jaguars haven't had a pocket passer since early Blake Bortles. He kind of turned into a mobile quarterback because of the lack of offensive line later in his career. But Trevor Lawrence will be a great fit in Jacksonville. Next up, we have the New York Jets, and this is a very interesting pick because we have these three quarterbacks that could be taken. Out of the three, I think Zach Wilson is the best, then Justin Fields. I personally think that Mac Wilson down here and Kyle Trask are better quarterbacks than Trey Lance just because of his inexperience. So with this pick, I'm going to go with Zach Wilson to the Jets. They love mobile quarterbacks. Justin Fields also is a mobile quarterback. But Zach Wilson has been trending up, and he had a phenomenal pro day, so that definitely helped his stock. For the number 3 pick, we have the San Francisco 49ers. They're also going to be looking to take a quarterback here. That's why they traded up for it, to get ahead of the Falcons. And I think they're going to go Justin Fields, a mobile quarterback similar to Trey Lance, but Justin Fields can make better throws on the run. And he's more experienced. He was the number 1 overall recruit a couple years back. And he is just overall a great quarterback. He was in the national championship game, but sadly lost to Alabama in that championship game. The 4th overall pick, we're going to make it 4 quarterbacks in a row. Trey Lance going to the Falcons. I think that's his best chance to be a successful NFL quarterback. Spend a year behind a former MVP winner in Matt Ryan, learn the ways of an NFL quarterback, and then take over in his second year. With the 5th pick, we have the Cincinnati Bengals. They need wide receivers. But the most important thing is offensive line because Joe Burrow got hurt because of the lack of offensive line. And Penei Sewell, if they pass on Penei Sewell and take a wide receiver, it's going to be awful for them. Joe Burrow's going to not be happy. The fan base isn't going to be happy. Penei Sewell is one of the best offensive lineman prospects I have seen in a very long time. He's very solid. He opted out of the 2020 season because of concerns over COVID, but I believe he's going to have a long and very good NFL career with the Bengals. With the 6th pick, the Dolphins need a dynamic playmaker, whether that be running back or wide receiver. I think they're going to take a wide receiver here. They're going to take Ja'Marr Chase. He's extremely fast. He is a very good target and the deep field threat. He's not the best in the class for deep field threat. That's where Devonta Smith comes in, but he's still a solid wide receiver. The Detroit Lions, they don't have any wide receivers. It's absolutely disgusting. They need a wide receiver. Now they can either look for Jalen Waddle or Devonta Smith here. I think they're going to go with the deep field threat that Kenny G brought and take Devonta Smith, the Heisman winner. The 8th pick in the draft, with the majority of good quarterbacks gone, they could take Mac Jones here, but I think Teddy Bridgewater is the better option, and they're going to go with a playmaker in Kyle Pitts. The Denver Broncos, they could take a linebacker here, they could take a cornerback. With the addition of Kyle Fuller, I think cornerback they're pretty set on, and Micah Parsons is still available, and he's the best linebacker in the draft. I think they'll go for him. Dallas Cowboys, they need anybody on defense or offensive lineman, so you could see Rashawn Slater be taken here, but Patrick Surtain is probably the player that they're going to go with. With the 11th pick, we have the New York Giants, who I'm thinking they're going to stick with Daniel Jones because Justin Fields isn't available at this pick. They need a playmaker, but they also need somebody on defense that can really hold the reins, and I think that is where Jeremiah Owusu Koromoa comes in. He's a phenomenal linebacker. He's not the best linebacker in the class. That's where Micah Parsons is. But he is still one of the better linebackers in this draft. The Philadelphia Eagles, they really don't need a tight end. They have Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert. Of course, both are injury prone, and Zach Ertz will most likely be traded either before the season or after the season. And Jalen Waddle is still available. They're going to take him. The Los Angeles Chargers, they need somebody on offensive or defensive line. Rashawn Slater is a phenomenal prospect, and I think they're going to take him, and they're going to be thrilled that he is still available. The Minnesota Vikings, they need somebody to either take over as the center or to be the safety back up to Anthony Harris. So I think that's where Elijah Vera Tucker comes in to play that center role and or guard position. So the prospect from USC goes to Minnesota. Now, Mac Jones had a horrible pro day. Bill Belichick did not look impressed. Kyle Trask, he is a quarterback I could see going here. Davis Mills, he's been getting a lot of hype recently. Kellen Mond is a really good quarterback that I know Bill Belichick has been looking at. But he's going to stick with Mac Jones, maybe wait a year and have Cam Newton be that starting quarterback, but Mac Jones will take over either mid-season or the next season. The Arizona Cardinals, they have a great running back field. They have Kenyon Drake and my boy James Conner now, so they don't need a running back. They do, however, need a cornerback. Jace, with the best cornerback already taken in Patrick Surtain, they're going to have to settle for their second option, J.C. Horn, out of South Carolina. The Las Vegas Raiders, they need everything. Everything's a mess for them, except for maybe quarterback, because they have Marcus Mariota and Derek Carr and Nathan Peterman. So, they're all set. For the team needs, you can see over here, they need an offensive tackle or a linebacker, and that is very true. Offensive line is probably the biggest need. Christian Darrisaw is the third best offensive tackle in this draft, and he's one of a kind. He is very big, he's very powerful, and he's very fast on his feet. Very good pick for the Raiders. The Dolphins haven't taken the wide receiver with their first pick. They need another playmaker, and I think that's where Travis Etienne or Najee Harris come in. I think Najee Harris is not going to go to the Dolphins. I think they want a bit more of a non-physical route running back. So that's going to be Travis Etienne going to the Dolphins. Washington football team, offensive tackle or linebacker, their biggest needs. That seems to be the trend throughout this draft. Now, Zaven Collins, he was very underrated at Tulsa, a very good player. He's going to have a great career wherever he goes because he's phenomenal at that linebacker position. He plays it so well. He sticks with the basics of the position, and that seems to work out fine for him. But they're going to go with Taven Jenkins, the fourth offensive tackle taken in the first round, and I believe the fifth offensive lineman. Now the Chicago Bears, they could take a quarterback here because they are in desperate need of one, or they could go with an offensive tackle. Unfortunately, the best offensive tackles are gone, and the best quarterbacks are gone. Now they could get a solid offensive tackle and quarterback in the second round, and they do need a wide receiver, a big wide receiver, and Rashad Bateman fits that bill perfectly. He goes to the Bears. The Indianapolis Colts need somebody on the offensive line or in the secondary. Like I said before, there's not really any top prospects from the offensive line still available. However, Greg Newsome, the second from Northwestern, is a very solid player, and I could see him going to the Colts with that pick. The Tennessee Titans, they need somebody to step up with A.J. Brown. However, Rashad Bateman was the best wide receiver that was still available. You could see Kadarius Toney going here, or a cornerback going here, or an offensive lineman going here. But like I said before, Kadarius Toney over Elijah Moore, he's really come alive in this last few games, and he's really become a prospect because of those last few games. A.J. Brown gets a load taken off him, and Corey Davis is gone. I forgot to mention that. That's why they need a wide receiver. Kadarius Toney takes over and becomes wide receiver 2 for the Tennessee Titans. New York Jets already taking Zach Wilson with the second overall pick. It's their pick again, and we have 3 of the best edges in the entire draft just lined up, have not been picked yet. I think Kwity Paye is the best overall, but Jalen Phillips is the best prospect, and I think the Jets really like him, and they're going to take him. The Pittsburgh Steelers, my favorite team. We need a running back with James Conner gone. We could stick with Jalen Samuels and Benny Snell, but Najee Harris is still available, and I think he's the easy option, and I think it's the option we will go with. Jacksonville Jaguars, they have Trevor Lawrence taken. They need somebody to protect him on the offensive line. Alex Leatherwood is a big offensive lineman from Alabama. He played at Alabama, so he has experience going up against the best in the SEC and in the playoffs. So he goes to the Jaguars and protects Trevor Lawrence. The Cleveland Browns are up now. They need anybody on that defensive line, and lucky for them, Kwity Paye is still available. He's from Michigan. He's very big, but he's very aggressive. He gets to line up opposite from Myles Garrett. Baltimore Ravens, they really need a wide receiver. Elijah Moore could go here, but they also need an edge or a safety. And Azeez Ojulari from Georgia, he fits exactly what the Ravens need, a big, aggressive player who is also fast on his feet. The Ravens take him. Now, the New Orleans Saints, they have Michael Thomas. We don't even know if he's going to play there. Emmanuel Sanders isn't on the team anymore. They have wide receiver troubles. They also need somebody in the secondary, but Elijah Moore is going to be too hard to pass up. The Green Bay Packers, they need an offensive tackle or a wide receiver. It's awful for them that a wide receiver that's really good isn't available at this time. Offensive line really isn't looking too good except for Landon Dickerson, but he plays guard, not tackle. But there are very solid cornerbacks here in Caleb Farley and Eric Stokes. I like Caleb Farley with this pick. He could line up with Jaire Alexander and make a very solid secondary. The Buffalo Bills are now up. They need a cornerback or an edge. Unfortunately for them, the 3 best edges are no longer available. But lucky for them, Eric Stokes is available, and I love him. I loved him ever since he started playing for Georgia. I loved him when he was a senior in high school. He is a great player. He's very quick, and he is phenomenal defensive IQ, and he's going to fit in very well with the Bills. The Kansas City Chiefs are up now. They need an offensive tackle or a wide receiver. If I had the sports experience on right now, he would definitely agree with me here. Samuel Cosmi is a very big, aggressive tackle from Texas. I think that with them getting rid of their 2 tackles, Samuel Cosmi will probably start. And out of all the tackles in the draft, out of all the tackles that I've talked about here, I think besides Penny Sewell, Samuel Cosmi is the most NFL-ready tackle in the draft. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, my guess is Antonio Brown will not be staying with them. They need a running back, too, because Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones are not top-tier running backs. Javonte Williams is available. They also need somebody on the defensive line, and Christian Barmore from Alabama is the perfect player for the Bucs. He's big. The Bucs love big. He is aggressive. The Bucs love aggressive. He's not fast is the only concern I have about him, but he can push aside any guard I've seen in the SEC. He goes to the Bucs. Start of the second round now. We have our wide receiver and safety needing Jacksonville Jaguars. And Trevon Moehrig is from TCU. He was the highlight of the TCU's entire season last year. He is the best safety TCU has all ever produced. Jacksonville gets lucky that he falls into the second round. The New York Jets need a cornerback or a wide receiver. Unfortunately for them, Eric Stokes and Caleb Farley are gone. Wide receiver-wise, Terrace Marshall Jr. is still available, so that is a very, very solid pick for Zach Wilson. He's a speedy guy. He kind of reminds me of a taller Antonio Brown, and I think he goes to the Jets. The Falcons, who took Trey Lance, they're going to be looking for somebody to help Trey Lance at the tight end position, and I have a tight end in mind, Pat Freiermuth. Why can't I speak today? The tight end from Penn State. He's very big. He's like Mike Gesicki, but bigger. He's not as fast as Mike Gesicki. He's pretty slow. He can be very solid on the line tight end too. I think the Falcons take him. The Dolphins have their playmakers. Now they need somebody in the trenches, either defense or offense. Jason Owa from Penn State, he looks like a great prospect. I didn't even know his name last year before the season started, but he really came alive, and he goes to the Dolphins with the 36th pick. The Philadelphia Eagles, with Pat Freiermuth gone, they don't really have any tight end options that are good enough for the second round. Cornerbacks are very thin in this draft, and the best have been taken. Safeties are also very not prevalent in this draft, so they're going to be looking for somebody outside of the box. Javonte Williams could fit that bill, but Zaven Collins will probably go to them because they just want the best available player if none of the positions that they want are available. Cincinnati Bengals, they took Penny Sewell already, so they are set. They have helped Joe Burrow. Now they need to give him an option at either wide receiver or tight end. The best available wide receiver is Rondale Moore, who, I loved him as a freshman at Purdue. He's very fast. He's extremely fast. He's faster than Antonio Brown. He has the route running skills that Antonio Brown has. And I think that they will pass on him, although he's like Antonio Brown. They need somebody in that. They need more help on that offensive line. Creed Humphrey and Wyatt Davis. I like them. I like both of them more than Landon Dickerson. I think Creed Humphrey is the best prospect at that position. The Carolina Panthers took probably the best overall pick in the draft with Kyle Pitts. They need an offensive tackle or cornerback. And now that the first round's over, I feel okay giving Liam Eichenberg or Dylan Raduns away to a team. And I think Liam Eichenberg is slightly better than Dylan Raduns. They possess all the same skill set, but he played at Notre Dame and Dylan played at North Dakota State. That definitely comes into play, and the Panthers help their offensive line. The Denver Broncos having taken Micah Parsons in the first round. I'm not confident in Drew Lock. If you've watched any of my episodes, you know that I do not like him and think he's a horrible quarterback. And Kellen Mond and Kyle Trask are the two guys I know that the Broncos have been looking at. They've also been looking at Jamie Newman. However, Kyle Trask and Kellen Mond are better, and I think they're going to go with Kellen Mond here. The Lions, I wouldn't be surprised if they took Rondale Moore here to help out their wide receivers. Even though they already took Devonta Smith, Rondale Moore could be the quick guy underneath, taking those underneath routes. They could also use a cornerback or an offensive tackle. Those two seem to be the two positions that every team needs. Dylan Raduns, like I said, is a phenomenal player. However, he went to a smaller college. That didn't stop Trey Lance, and it's not going to stop Dylan either. The New York Giants, they already took their linebacker that they wanted. They want an edge or a cornerback. Their defense is absolutely atrocious, so they can use anything on the defensive end. We have Kelvin Joseph down here. They have Joe Tryon right here. They could also use a wide receiver where Rondale Moore comes in, and I think they will take the Rondale Moore here. The San Francisco 49ers, they need somebody as a guard or as a cornerback. And Landon Dickerson and Wyatt Davis snuck through. Wyatt Davis, I don't pay too much attention to offensive linemen, but I saw him in that conference the semifinal. He was amazing for Ohio State. I think he goes to the 49ers. The Dallas Cowboys, they need somebody in the trenches, offensive or defensive. And Landon Dickerson, I think, is going to get passed on for Levi Onwu, I'm not going to attempt to say that last name. He goes to the Cowboys. The Jaguars have had the best draft so far. They have so many draft picks this year. They've taken the quarterback, offensive tackle, and safety. They need a wide receiver. Amari Rogers is a great option for them. And they also need a running back. Javonte Williams is available, and he's the best running back in the draft besides Najee and Travis Etienne. The New England Patriots, they need a linebacker or wide receiver. The best available player right now is a linebacker, and they're going to go with him. The Los Angeles Chargers already took their offensive lineman. Now they need the defensive lineman. That's where Gregory Rousseau comes in. I mean, I'm surprised he fell so deep earlier in the year. You could see him in the top 10 best available players. But due to other players getting their draft stock boosted, he goes in the second round to the Chargers. The Las Vegas Raiders need a linebacker or a guard. Landon Dickerson is still available. Baron Brown is also available, but Landon Dickerson is the best overall player, and they take him. The Arizona Cardinals, they need a guard. That's where Landon Dickerson could have come in. They don't need a running back. I don't know why that's listed as one of their needs. And I don't see anybody in the trenches that could help the Cardinals out. Tight end wise, there aren't many good tight ends left. Or Brevin Jordan is actually very good, but they are not going to take him. There you go for the best available player, Baron Browning from Ohio State. Miami has already taken all of their skill positions, and they took an edge as well, so they need a tight end or a guard. And as I said last time, those are two positions that are not thick and deep running with talent. They decide not to go with him, and they settle on Nick Bolton, the linebacker from Missouri. Washington football team already took their offensive tackle. Now they need a linebacker or a safety. The Dolphins took the best available linebacker, and there aren't many left that are actually really good. They need somebody in the secondary, either safety or cornerback, and that's where Kelvin Joseph really shines at the cornerback from Kentucky. The Chicago Bears, I think this is the round where they take a quarterback. Seeing the Broncos take Kellen Mond kind of scared them a bit, so they decided to take a quarterback too. I think the quarterback that they take is Davis Mills, the quarterback from Stanford. Really good player, very underrated. ESPN just wrote a story about him, and I think you guys should check that out. The Tennessee Titans, they need a cornerback or an offensive tackle, and I'm not really feeling very confident in either of those picks for them. I think they could also use somebody in the secondary as a safety. However, there are no really good safeties left. Tight end wise, there's nothing there either. Linebacker Jabril Cox from LSU is the best available player that the Titans need, and they decide to take him. The Indianapolis Colts, they need somebody on the offensive line or a wide receiver, and we have two of the best wide receivers in the draft, Dyami Brown and Amari Rogers. Amari Rogers had an injury, so that's why he wasn't playing this season, and he goes to the Colts to be the next T.Y. Hilton. The Pittsburgh Steelers haven't taken Najee Harris in the first round. We need somebody on the offensive line or as a cornerback. I love Asante Samuel Jr., and I'd love if he could be wearing a Pittsburgh jersey next year, so I think they go with him. The Seattle Seahawks make their first selection in the draft, and that's going to be an edge. Joseph Asai from Texas is going to be their pick. The Los Angeles Rams, they need somebody on the offensive line. Brady Christensen from BYU, he protected Zach Wilson, who was one of the least sacked quarterbacks in the nation, and he goes to LA. Baltimore Ravens need a safety or a wide receiver or an offensive tackle. Dyami Brown, he's exactly what the Ravens need, a fast, quick wide receiver that Lamar Jackson can throw to very quickly, and he goes to Baltimore. The Browns need a defensive lineman or a wide receiver. Dyami Brown was the last wide receiver that's going to be taken for a while here. There aren't many good defensive linemen, so the Browns are getting lucky with Davion Nixon being available. He is from Iowa. The New Orleans Saints, they need a cornerback or an edge, and we have 4 edges lined up here. Out of all 4 of them, I think Ronnie Perkins and Carlos Basham Jr. are the best. They decide to take Ronnie Perkins. The Buffalo Bills need an edge or a wide receiver. Like I said, wide receivers aren't going to be picked here for a while. And we have all of these great edges. They go with Carlos Basham Jr. The Green Bay Packers, again, get robbed of a good wide receiver, and they need an offensive tackle, which is not available. So they'll look to defensive line, where Milton Williams will fill a much-needed hole that the Packers have. The Chiefs, Sammy Watkins leaves, so they need a wide receiver. There aren't any good wide receivers left. Offensive line, they need a guard, not a tackle, because they already took a tackle. That's where Quinn from, I'm not going to say that last name, because I'm pretty sure Wisconsin isn't part of it. So Quinn Muneers Whitewater from Wisconsin, very good pick for the Chiefs. It's a much-needed offensive line hole. You can ask the Sports Experience. He really wants somebody on that offensive line to be filled. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, final pick of round 2. They need a wide receiver or running back. Unfortunately, neither of those are too good. And they're going to take another defensive lineman, Joe Tryon from Washington. And, the Buccaneers have a very solid linebacker group that always rushes. They need an edge just in case they need the linebackers to drop back into coverage, and Joe Tryon could fill that gap. 3rd round here, Jacksonville needs a wide receiver. Aren't any good ones. They need a cornerback. Aaron Robinson and Elijah Molden are the best ones available here. I like Aaron Robinson a lot. I loved him back when he was a sophomore with that UCF team. That's where he really impressed me. He goes to Jacksonville. The New York Jets need a tight end or a cornerback. Brevin Jordan is still available, and Elijah Molden, and Tommy Tremble. Those are the 3 players that the Jets are going to be looking at in this situation. I think they're going to go with Brevin Jordan from Miami. Houston Texans making their first pick in the draft in the 3rd round. They need somebody on the defensive side of the ball. Elijah Molden is a great player. He gets taken by the Texans. The Atlanta Falcons need an edge or an offensive tackle. Peyton Turner is available. Jalen Mayfield, however, is a very underrated player. These 2 players right here are the 2 most underrated players in the draft, besides Kenneth Gainwell, who's going to be a star in the NFL. We have Jalen Mayfield, who is big and plays for Michigan. We have Richie Grant, who is very small, but is like an Earl Thomas type of player. But the Falcons are going to go with an edge, and they take Peyton Turner from Houston. The Bengals still haven't taken their wide receiver or a tight end. Wide receivers are all lining up here. I think the one that they go with is Nico Collins from Michigan. The Eagles finally going to get their tight end. That's Tommy Tremble from Notre Dame. He's a very good blocking tight end, not so good at catching the ball and running with it, but that's not what the Eagles need. Denver Broncos, they really don't need a cornerback. They do need somebody on the offensive line. Jalen Mayfield from Michigan, he definitely is a great player, and I believe will go to the Denver Broncos. The Detroit Lions, they need a cornerback or a quarterback. We have the cornerback from Syracuse down here. I think he goes to the Lions. The Carolina Panthers already took care of their offensive line and tight ends positions. I think now is the time for them to take a quarterback, with the next best players being taken off the board rather quickly. This is where Kyle Trask gets taken, the player who looked like a Heisman contender until late into the season. Washington football team, they need a linebacker or a safety. We have 3 safeties lined up. The best out of these are Richie Grant and Javon Holland. I think Javon Holland goes to Washington. The Dallas Cowboys need an offensive tackle or an edge, so somebody in those trenches. However, neither of those are available at the current moment. Tight ends aren't available there and won't be for a while. Josh Myers from Ohio State is in the trenches. He just doesn't play the position that they need, but the Cowboys will take him and try to convert him into a tackle. New York Giants have taken a linebacker and a wide receiver so far in the draft. They need an edge player. They do not have an edge player available. However, they have Tyson Campbell from Georgia available. He has played with Eric Stokes, so that secondary for Georgia has been crazy good. Los Angeles has taken an offensive tackle and an edge to play next to Joey Bosa, sorry. And they need a safety or a cornerback. And Richie Grant finally finds a home in the third round to the Chargers. The Minnesota Vikings need a safety or a cornerback. And there are, so they need somebody in the secondary, and that's where Jamar Johnson from Indiana comes in. Linebacker and a safety are the top needs for the Raiders after their starting safety left them. However, the best safeties were just taken off: Javon Holland, Richie Gray, and Jamar Johnson. Linebackers, that's where Chaz Surratt from North Carolina comes in, and Pete Werner. Chaz Surratt is definitely the better player. He should be ranked higher than Pete Werner. He goes to the Raiders. The Raiders, with back-to-back picks now, they need a safety or a defensive lineman. Defensive line is the top player in the draft, or available in the draft, is Tommy Togiai. He goes to the Raiders. Miami Dolphins, they need an offensive lineman or a tight end. They need a blocking tight end. They don't need a pass-catching tight end. That's what Mike Gesicki's for. They need a blocking tight end. However, tight ends aren't going to be taken for a while. An offensive lineman aren't really available. They could take a tackle to try to fill that gap, and I think that's what they're going to do. Spencer Brown from Northern Iowa gets taken over Jackson Carman and goes to the Dolphins. Washington football team need a linebacker or a wide receiver or a quarterback here. This is definitely the biggest round for quarterbacks, I believe, besides the first round. This is where Brady White from Memphis is going to be taken. He was probably the best player in the AAC in the past couple of years, besides Kenneth Gainwell, who is now on our list, and he goes to the Washington football team. The Chicago Bears need somebody on the offensive line or a cornerback. Now, Jackson Carman is available after he was passed on by the Dolphins for Spencer Brown. And, I mean, he went to Clemson, so he's got to be a really good player. He goes to I almost picked Michael Carter. I would have messed everything up. And he goes to Jackson Carman, goes to the Bears. The Eagles finally got their tight end last round. Now they need a cornerback or a safety. Divine Diablo from Virginia Tech is available, and that's who they're going to take. The Tennessee Titans still haven't filled their biggest hole, which is at cornerback after the loss of Adoree Jackson. And Paulson Adebo is going to fill that hole of another Pac-12 player going into the Titans. Not as quick as Adoree Jackson was, but Paulson Adebo will definitely do. The New York Jets haven't taken their quarterback. They need a cornerback or a running back. And I think the Jets are going to get a very good player who can be switched to wide receiver if needed. That's going to be Kenneth Gainwell from Memphis, the player I've been talking about too much during this draft. He is so good. He is one of the best players in the draft. The Pittsburgh Steelers are on the clock. They already took their cornerback and their running back. Now they need somebody on the offensive line. Stone Forsythe from Florida is the best available tackle, and he goes to the Steelers. The Los Angeles Rams, they need an offensive guard or a tight end. However, neither of those are available that are really good. They do need a linebacker. Pete Werner is available, and he is phenomenal. He's not as good as the other linebacker who was taken ahead of him, Chaz Surratt, but he will do for the Rams. After all, he probably won't be starting for the season. He'll get 1, maybe 2 years of experience in the NFL, then he'll become a starter. The Cleveland Browns need a wide receiver or a cornerback. We have 3 wide receivers lined up here, and the best one I would say is either Amon-Ra St. Brown or Tylan Wallace. I think they want a big target, and that's where Tylan Wallace comes in. He goes to the Browns. The Minnesota Vikings need a cornerback or an edge. Janarius Robinson, Quincy Roche, he was one player that I thought was crazy good. He goes to the Vikings. The cornerback or a linebacker needing Browns, who just picked up a wide receiver, are looking at Benjamin St-Juste from Minnesota, and I think that's the player they're going to take. He is a little smaller for the cornerback position, but he's extremely fast. The Green Bay Packers, I think this is where they finally get their wide receiver, and the player who's going to become wide receiver 2 or 3 is going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown. Very speedy player. He's not too big, but he doesn't have to be for the Packers type of offense, because the main target is going to be Devontae Adams, and Amon-Ra St. Brown's just there to take a bit of a load off of him. The Buffalo Bills need a wide receiver or running back, and we have Michael Carter and Trey Sermon right here. However, the best running back available is Chuba Hubbard to me, so the Bills take Chuba Hubbard. The Chiefs are still in need of a wide receiver after they took care of their offensive line situation. Dwayne Eskridge from Western Michigan is a little unknown, but I watched a bit of his tape, and he pops off on the screen. If you're watching any Western Michigan games, he will stand out to you. He goes to the Chiefs. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, this would be the final pick of the round 3, but the rest of these guys, because they either got really unlucky with injuries or COVID, or that's why they got those picks. The Buccaneers need somebody at the skill position, and they're going to pass on Michael Carter and Trey Sermon for another running back that I think is really underrated, Puka Williams from Kansas. He's the best player Kansas has produced in a long time. The New England Patriots have taken their quarterback, have taken their linebacker. Now they want to help their quarterback with a wide receiver, and that is where Seth Williams from Auburn comes in. I almost said San Diego. The Los Angeles Chargers, they need a cornerback or a wide receiver. Wide receivers are very thin in this draft, so they're going to pass on both of those positions and decide to take a guard, Trey Smith from Tennessee. The New Orleans Saints need a cornerback or a linebacker, and Keith Taylor Jr. is a very capable cornerback to take position of the Saints. He's one player that really stood out to me coming into this draft that I think could be a diamond in the rough. He goes to the Saints. The Dallas Cowboys, they need a tackle or an edge, and that is where Janarius Robinson from Florida State comes in. He will line up on the opposite side of DeMarcus Lawrence. I mean, that's a very good duo. Janarius Robinson probably wasn't the best player from Florida State this season. That's where Hamza Nasir-Lidin comes in, but he is one of the best players in this draft. And speaking of Hamza Nasir-Lidin, he goes to the Titans with the next pick. The Detroit Lions, I think they're going to take the backup to Jared Goff here, and that's going to be Jamie Newman from Georgia, who decided to opt out late into the season. The San Francisco 49ers need a cornerback or an offensive tackle, and both of those are down here at the bottom. Elijah Griffin from USC is actually pretty big for the cornerback position, and the 49ers tend to like bigger players, not fast players. But James Hudson is a big player with quick feet on the offensive line. He goes to the Niners. The Los Angeles Rams, they need a guard or a tight end. Hunter Long from Boston College is looking like that player, and he goes to the Rams. The Baltimore Ravens took care of their edge and wide receiver positions already. They needed safety or an offensive tackle. Tyree Gillespie from Missouri is, I'd say he belongs being taken in the 3rd round. He's not underrated. He's not overrated. He's just not capable of being a first-round pick. Final pick in this 3-round mock draft is the New Orleans Saints. They needed a linebacker or a safety. Cameron McGrone is a very good player, but Ardarius Washington from TCU. I mean, that's why TCU won any games, because of their secondary with Trevon mowing aside Ardarius Washington. It was very entertaining to watch, unless you were me and you were a Baylor fan watching us almost lose to TCU. So that's going to do it, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe down below. Don't forget to tell me who you think will get picked first, Justin Fields or Trey Lance or Mac Jones. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.